Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. It's review time. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Kamal Cockins, as if it's been every week.
Episode 13 called Such Sweet Sorrow. As in, parting is, because we know that Pike is leaving and who knows what else is going to happen.
This is the one before the finale, so place your bets on what's going to happen at the end. And there's a lot to talk about in this one, and as you guys know, we'll do a live this evening. You can join our scene-by-scene breakdown of the entire thing and talk to our great fan base, so please join to that if you want to hear the more detailed review. This is obviously the condensed edited version. So Stuart, your general thoughts on this episode?
Loved almost everything about it. There were a few issues that I had with, like plot holy things. Like
Full spoilers, warning.
Yes,
Always full spoilers though in the show.
Full spoilers. So, I mean, there's a few small issues, but, I mean, I can overlook them. As I said, I was invested the whole time. It was a good pace. I really kind of liked what I saw. We got to see some stuff we've been waiting for, which has been fantastic. They tried to shoehorn a few things in that shouldn't have probably been there, but we'll get to those when we get to those. Namely, Sarek and Amanda. Last night in my first reaction review, I said I'm probably going to give it a 9 out of 10. I'm going to stick with that. I think I kind of skewed my rating system with some of the other episodes by giving them a little bit too high of a rating.
I thought you probably did too when you did.
Yeah, I kind of backed myself into a corner there. This one, though, I think really deserves it. There's a lot of good stuff in this episode. So, Samuel, you've left me hanging now. What do you think?
I liked it. First half was better than the second half. The second half kind of drags a bit. But that's just more in a sense of lead up. And that's why it kind of ends on the worst note almost. Because it's just like, now it's getting good. Well, it stopped. You didn't need some of that last bit of padding. Because, there's so much story to finish. And so many little story problems, so many little canon problems, so many little timeline problems, so many things that I was expecting that they would jump into the battle in the second half. And then do a timey thing. And then allow the last however long last episode is to kind of address a lot of the problems. But now it stops at that point, so I'm wondering how on earth could they even remotely finish off, or are we going to get a similar to Season 1 where push hits a corner, let's finish off everything way too fast and get anticlimactic. And like I say, first half was great. I appreciate that we saw the Enterprise straight on the get-go, like it was so focused, so move, and then story, and then we're just going to talk about people for 28 minutes.
Yeah, so one of my predictions from last week came true.
Oh, we got a lot of things right, Stuart. As a twofer, we got a lot of things right.
I'm calling out. Yeah, I know, but I'm calling out specifically something I said last week, that the Klingon D7 would mysteriously be missing now, and it was just gone.
Well, they left Borath. I mean, they weren't there.
I mean, it was great seeing the Enterprise like right away, but it makes you wonder why there weren't more Starfleet ships with them, because I'm sure the Enterprise could have passed a few. I know Control took out our relay stations. We only have ship to ship, which makes no goddamn sense, but whatever.
You have the spore drive, so you could just spore back to Earth, say, hey guys, could we please have like 30 ships meet us there? Yeah.
Yes.
Really easy. Honestly, they made it hard for themselves, this crew.
Yeah. So that was kind of odd to just all of a sudden see the Enterprise there. It was great. Don't get me wrong. You got that nice beat. But again, you didn't get that intro of the Enterprise warping in, or have the nice entry shot of it, cruising by the camera.
But you got that for the bridge, though. So I think you did get that just
a little bit.
You already had that for the outside last season. We just got the inside this season. I didn't notice any lack of, for the Enterprise.
I would buy that for last season, absolutely, yeah. It was an odd scene, though, I got to say, with the whole Discovery and Enterprise first time, because the Discovery's doing like a Top Gun maneuver. They were inverted. They were keeping up. And then they do the whole bank over, and it's like, okay, that's a cool scene. Kind of unnecessary in this instance, but that's okay. It was really cool, really well done. And then it just got stupid. I mean, I love the docking thing. I thought they were going to dock saucer to saucer, which would have been super great. But no, then we get like Looney Tunes. Wile E. Coyote ordered something from Acme, and it unfolds from the ship, these evacuation corridors, and there's like 4 of them, the length of the ship. It's like, oh my God. I was loving the scene, then that happened, and I'm like, oh my God, no, that's now a thing. That's now a technology that exists.
Well, no, just in the Discoverse, it's not. We know this is a alternate visual universe, and so you couldn't put that in the TOS colony, so it isn't. For that scene, I literally, as soon as it started, I burst out laughing, like full pelt laughter, to the point that I think anyone who was listening would be like, what the hell's going on? And I think I said out loud, wait, are you serious? That's awesome, but it's absolutely laughable. I mean, just transport them over, guys. You've got like lots of pads, and there's only 130 of you. 9 at a time. It'll take you like 7 minutes to beam everyone plus your stuff. It'll take longer to walk.
Then, and we'll just talk about this first. We'll talk about the Enterprise first, I guess. And then we'll hit the other story beats. So when I first saw the corridor of the Enterprise, I kind of went, oh, that is ugly. The way they have it laid out, the shape of it, the colors, the red is too much. It's too overpowering. Especially contrasted against the white. Like we've been in those on the TOS sets. They're gray. They're more subdued, matted colors. They aren't so bright. They did get the grading right. There's some grading on the sides, which is great. So first thing I said is, Sylvia sitting on the couch. I'm like, oh my god, that's ugly. As soon as I saw the corridor, then they immediately go to a turbo lift. Open the turbo lift. He turns the handle, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's orgasmic. That was good. The turbo lift scene was pretty good.
Yeah, the corridors obviously just redress. It's the cheap way out, and they're fine. I mean, it's much more Cage with the color palette, and then sort of throwing that red of TOS in it. I mean, they just redress their own set. It doesn't look good, doesn't work particularly well, and it, especially in contrast to seeing Discovery sets 2 seconds earlier, I guess they're built at the same time in the same place, and the grating is like, what can we do that adds some look value but adds nothing design-wise? That. Turbo Lift's obviously a new little set, great, but again, it's a little tube. If they got it wrong, it's a nice thing. This episode shows, as we guesstimated early on, that this episode is a much better equivalency of how do we visually update something without throwing the baby out with the bathwater and saying, screw this, we'll do our own thing. The Turbo Lift would be an absolutely fine visual update reboot. Completely valid, nothing wrong with it. Corridors, no, but they're a redress, so they could never go that far. And the bridge, for the most part, works as well. So it's kind of like, if only this had been the aesthetic from season 1.
Well, we're not going to talk too much about the bridge. We're going to do a separate video on just the bridge, so we're not going to include it too much in this episode. But I got to say, when they first stepped off that turbo lift and panned that camera back, it's like, okay, we got an offset turbo lift. I kind of like the rear part of the bridge there, that kind of hallway-esque thing. That was kind of cool. And the bridge was kind of super impressive at first. And then you started actually looking at it, and it's like, it's way too shiny. It's too distracting to the eye. It's not subtle and subdued like we've come accustomed to with the matte colors. I know they got bright blinky lights and stuff, but God, this was just polished to a T, and everything just gleamed, and I would be blind on that bridge. It's a bad bridge to do your job.
Good design is a good design is a good design. There's a reason that the US Navy or Air Force or Pentagon, whichever one, using Matt Jeffries' design as a basis for theirs. It's just a good design. The bridge is an example of style over substance, but this time they put more substance in it, and it's funny. They upscaling everything has its own unique challenges. They put themselves in a corner. The bridge can't be the same size because you've made the ship 30% bigger, and the bridge is now 30% bigger. And so the solution, which I'm so glad that version of, is let's make an outer corridor which has no real functional use, but whatever, to allow the inner bridge section to be an appropriate size. The Discovery bridge is at least 40% too big, like 20, 30, 40% too big. Shinjo, again, 30% too big. The Enterprise bridge was like 10% bigger, but it felt about right because they did this wasteful corridor, but it allowed the visuals to stay. And that's as much of a compromise you can get with their forced upscaling. That's a good compromise to make. But yeah, my reaction was, it's pretty, but it's busy. And certainly it's, the floor being a shiny material, I was like, what the hell is that for? Like, I get the reflective, glowy, but it looked really weird. I think it's one of those things that the smaller details of that bridge work better than the overall. Because as soon as you see it, like, wow, so much stuff. But as soon as you start zooming in, it's, oh, nice. Difficult one, because it works, but it's like that top 15% of polish was over polish, where it lost the functional, Starfleet militaristic, I don't know, but you know what I mean. It's a Navy peacekeeping organization, so military in a sense of function. It lost that. But let's go talk about plot then. This is one of those episodes where there are little plot problems. I'm excited to actually go and analyze it because there's little moments of that doesn't quite make sense. Are you sure? Wait, what? But it does go at a really nice pace that it burns through them so quickly that, we'll get into that later. But there are little ones, and I think mostly questions. With one episode left, I think they're going to ignore most of the questions, like new ones they ask, which is Discovery. Don't think about it. But it was a better balance of making sense sort of plot. Although we called it, as soon as you said Burnham's in the suit from a long time ago. So actually we're both right, Stuart. For different reasons.
Well, you said they'd rebuild the suit, and I didn't think they would. I thought they'd get the other one back. So they're rebuilding a suit.
I think that's too easy. It's like, yeah, it is too easy. The whole episode is too easy. How do we find a supernova to charge a time crystal? We'll do this. It's just as good as a supernova. And they said in an episode, this the most powerful thing in the galaxy. And the spore drive. Oh, we can't spore anywhere. Oh, we'll just spore. We'll be here in 5 minutes. We'll spore away. Okay, cool. Why don't you do that again? We only have 5 minutes left until it's charged. Well, why don't we spore 50 hours away, charge it, not a problem. It's an episode where they put themselves in all the problem situations they're in, which I think is wonderfully silly. But it does a great job of still making you feel like there's tension, despite them sort of creating the tension falsely, in some places anyway.
Yeah, the whole sporing to the other planet, Zathia or whatever it was. I gotta say, it was a cool visual to kind of get the whole, Enterprise warping out, kind of like doing this warp race, or this race. It's not really a race, because who's going to win. The Enterprise warps out, and then the Discovery does it and does its thing. It was really cool, actually. And then to see the amount of time it takes for the Enterprise to get there, that was frustrating, because it's like, we just saw the Enterprise. I want to spend time with the Enterprise. And we keep hearing, oh, they're 10 hours away. Oh, they're such and such hours away. It's like, oh, just get there already. It was cool to see how much distance they needed to do and compare that to the instant travel of the spore drive.
Well, that's why it was great at the start, because you got, the pace was so move, onto Enterprise, we stay there, we're in the conference room, it's such, at that point you think, oh, damn, they're actually going to stay away from Discovery. This could be a Discovery-less episode. That's really exciting. Then you're right, jump back into that.
Yeah, and I got to admit, the beginning part too, where they evacuate Discovery and they're going to self-destruct Discovery and they give it a proper send-off, and you see it on screen, and you know it's not going to happen. You know it's not going to explode at the countdown. And then it's like photon torpedoes. It's like, yes. And Sylvia's like, well, that'll do it. And I'm like, no, it won't. Shields are up. It's like, oh. Orb data is protecting itself. That was actually really well done, really well handled, the evacuation of the ship. The pacing was beautiful. It got everything done. I just wish the ship would have exploded and we could have moved on with the Enterprise and just been done.
Because they could have just gone back, realised the only way to win is with the spore jump, so we have to go back in time to go back on Discovery and do a thing. It would have been nice to just, oops, it was the wrong decision to blow it up. And now on the Enterprise, and then we've got to go back and undo. That would have been a better twist than what we got, or getting, I suppose. Although it's funny, you said about the Michael Burnham suit. I called creating a new suit would be easy, and I also called that the Red Angel, the data, sphere data wouldn't let it be destroyed. Weeks ago, I'm just like, yeah, it just won't allow self-destruct. They didn't think that.
That was brought up weeks ago in some of the comments. Though why don't they just self-destruct the ship or destroy the core, the computer core?
Well, that's a difference.
To happen.
I mean, they could just phaser the core. I mean, that is true. You could manually blow up the ship yourself, but tell the ship to do it itself. Although now basically we're saying that sphere data is an AI inside Discovery. AIs are really easy to make in this era, and Control is definitely an AI already. That's been poorly done so far. But that again that's the thing. As it was going, I was like, yep, called that. Yep, called that. Yep, but it was still nice to see the way they were doing it, because they were throwing us little curveballs of being in the Enterprise conference room was nice, and then the suit was a super ultra metal. Oh, we'll just melt a bulkhead.
Oh, okay. Titanium. Yeah, just melt a cargo container and wow. Okay.
But at least said, oh, only Burnham's ilk, her brain pattern can use it. But then it was only because it was already built with that, but obviously you could rebuild it with a different program, so you're not removing that it's not like it's hard-coded for eternity, it's just the current schematics you have. But,
I think I think that goes back to the software you needed to operate the suit, which is they have, which also has her Michael Burnham's neural patterns. They need to just dump that into the suit because they don't have time to develop a new one for a new operator. So I think that's what that is. It's not really explained so well, but I think that's the reason, because Pike does ask for the suit to be made to his specifications. And like, we can't do that because we basically need to get this thing built quick.
Just copy and paste the old configuration.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's designed for her, so I buy that.
But it's still like, in the future you could just build a new one and recode it. It just took more than 6 hours. So it's like they created a nice limit, but then also undid it. Although didn't you find it funny? As soon as Michael Burnham touched the crystal, which I thought was again a bit of a dumb thing to do, I was like, oh, so is that future set now? You've taken the crystal, That future's set.
Nope, they explained this in the last one. It's only when you remove the crystal from the pillar or from the monastery that you lock in the time. You lock in that future for the person that does it. Not everybody that touches it after that.
I just thought that was like, it was a bit funny. And then they show these futures, but is that actually the future? Because it's very useful. Like, if you can just go grab one, and they're not that difficult to grab, and it can just show you the future. I mean, obviously, then you have is that up into interpretation? But I love how they say, oh, it's in this cage, so we can't see the future. But it's like, if you see the future, you can help avoid the future. Why isn't anyone actively, like, looking? Especially if it means it charges quicker, you know? Like, especially if this whole thing's about saving the future, if you know this, I mean, obviously you can create more problematic futures by doing that, but if you know, Burnham sees everyone die, I mean, she's already changed her own future by the crystal showing her future, because she's no longer on the bridge, because we see that in the next time on. So, the crystal showed her the future, she's now changed the future. It's that easy. They love playing with time in this show. And I guess you have time echoes after you touch a crystal? So is Pike going to get time echoes?
Burnham does. Not anyone else, though.
Is it? Yeah.
She's special.
But it burns through them so quickly that you don't think about it as much. And I think it's just great success. It has a lovely little pace, but then I do think it just slams to a crawl second half because I'm waiting for stuff to happen. And then you said this earlier on, and then suddenly we get the Vulcan parents, and I'm like, I thought you couldn't do radio signals, so I guess he uses Cutralink to warp to her location, and I guess you're in warp distance via your ship to this planet from Vulcan, I guess, just enough time and just pull the battle, and then you leave again, and you don't get reinforcements.
I thought it was kind of stupid they got there as well. It's one of the shoehorned in things that didn't need to be in the episode. Huge deal. It just didn't. It felt forced to have them on there to say goodbye. It should have been via subspace or something. Would have been more moving to have it be via subspace. We can't give you a hug. We can't have any physical contact. We know you're going to die.
Well, and not just that. If you then have the control interfere with the communications as that thing's going on, or like at the end of the transmission, it goes from the goodbye into Leland. He's like, I'm coming for you. Static.
Relays just, long distance communication
could have been because we know that obviously the relays were stopped after they called for Enterprise, otherwise they couldn't have called for Enterprise. But I mean, did you get the feeling that they actually were saying goodbye to the Michael Burnham character? Because it's been a lot of time dedicated to that idea that if she doesn't leave at the end of the season, she doesn't die. I feel like, for me, they use so much of the episode, they could have done on better things.
Mm-hmm.
That she has to now go at the end of the season. Like, that character's gone. Like,
no, she won't be. That's clearly she won't be. They did that to make us think that she has to leave because they've wasted all this time on goodbyes.
And speaking of, what do you think of bringing back the runaway queen, her vibe, her appearance, and her solution to the supernova? 1 a minute. Somewhere in the galaxy, we can just spore to it. But no. What do you think about her whole thing?
It was fine. It was a nice, tidy wrap-up, I guess, to the whole short issue. Felt very contrived from the beginning, even though there's no mention of it. If you haven't seen the shorts, you're going to be surprised about this whole situation.
It's going to seem even easier.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yes. So, I don't know. whatever. I mean, I love the explanation. Oh, there's lots of red giants. Ha ha. Yeah, but not all of them are going supernova. That could wait 100 years for something like that. I love that little crinkle. So we can't just run to a supernova.
Well, I mean, then you add maybe the best line of the episode, and then Giorgio says, "Well, I could just antimatter warhead it." Oh, no! I thought there were no bad ideas. No, there's bad ideas.
Bad ideas. Oh yeah, there are bad ideas, and that's a bad idea. Yeah, it was a great.
Because that was I think the right pitch of Giorgio. She wasn't being evil or dickish. She was being out of the box, thinking on her universe. Because really, you could pick any star without any risk of killing people. So that I think is the way you pitch Giorgio. She'll go that extra way, but doesn't have to be mean and killy about it.
The quick recharging of the crystal, it's interesting. I love how she says she's going to stay on the ship with them. She's not going to go back home. She's along for the ride. She says to Tilly, if my sister dies, I want to be the...
But I sort of liked her. Like, she was obviously that classic comic. She was trying to be the comic relief, fun to come. I mean, the episode's relatively dark. In a sense of it just gets... And so that was obviously the balance of that. Again, there's no obstacles in this episode. That's the funny thing. Every problem has an instant-ish solution. Yes, you have to go to the specific place and person, but every single thing is doable. Can we build a new time suit? Yes. Is it difficult? Not really. Okay. All these just step, done, great. It just felt so easy.
Yeah, but then the time crystal's not charging as fast as they thought, so it's lagging behind the timeline. So I did like that little snag that they threw in there.
But it still shouldn't be chargeable by supernova power in 6 hours based on something you invent. You know what I mean? Just because you know how to do crystalline restructuring of antimatter doesn't mean you can... Dilithium crystal, sorry, doesn't mean you can chart... Is there different knowledge sets? I feel like she can't just be genius in all things.
The biggest plot point, I guess, is Michael going into the future, but we'll talk about that in just a second. As a result of that, initially she was going to be stranded in the future by herself, but then the crew's like, no, we're coming with you. All of us are decided to come with you. We're going to
leave letters for our families. The Bridge Crew 7, to be fair.
Yeah. We're going to leave letters for our families, and, they knew this could happen when we joined Starfleet. And, there's this whole thing in the hallway of, hey, we're all going with you. Oh, no, you're not. Yes, we are. Yes. No, you don't have to say, okay, whatever. So I thought that was odd. The fact that Spock decided to stay with his sister kind of makes a little bit of sense. But at the same time, it's like, why not just go back to Enterprise? But I guess he's sticking with his sister. Loyalty? I don't know. It just... frustrating.
On that, I didn't buy it for a single second. Didn't buy any of those characters would do it. None of them. Tilly wants to be a captain. They go into a future where no sentient life exists, theoretically. So that ends her career. Spock, it's funny, a few minutes ago she said to Sarah, look after Spock. So how disappointed is he? How sad is he going to be when both of his children are going to the future and never see him again? He would have had words about that. So I just didn't buy.
A spare child.
It's true. But I didn't buy it at all. Not even for like that. That was fairyland to me. That tells me they're not going to go in the future or something. Because just I don't see any of those characters doing that at all. And the fact is, Burnham, she very specifically pointed out, hopefully I'm going to be tethered to Terra Elysium 50,000 years away and the same time as my mum. So she won't be by herself, she'll be with her mum in the future, who also built the time suits, and now Burnham knows there are time crystals on Borath, with it working well. With the time suit doesn't work anymore theoretically, but I loved how easy it was just to get to the place with the thing. So you won't be, with your mum, at least mention if your calculations are correct, although I guarantee it'll send her in the past, given clips I'll be in the past or something, so that will go wrong, but, I just didn't buy for a single second that crew would do it. There's so many better things to do than that. Like, there's nothing you can do in the future. There's not even a good mix of men to women ratio to, like, we're going to do all, are you going to make children and make a new society? Are you all just going to die alone and die? Like, what's the point?
Didn't help her get back somehow.
And Spock was awful. But then the thing is, we know Spock doesn't do it. That's the problem. When it's just Michael going, I was like intrigued. Oh, what's going to happen with the Discovery time travel? But as soon as Spock said he was going to go, I'm like, okay, they're not going to do the thing they're saying they're going to do because he doesn't obviously do that.
But they can, because he can get on a shuttle to go do something else, and it turns out he can't land on Discovery again, so he has to land on Enterprise. Discovery still disappears and goes to the future with everybody on it, and he would be stuck on Enterprise. It's easy to fix something like that.
Okay, true.
Well, let's talk about this plan they have to get rid of Discovery, get rid of the information. They're going to send Discovery in the future, basically tethered to her in the suit, going to the future. They're going to. Original plan was to cut Discovery loose and her snap back into present time, which is dumb. If you're going to send Discovery everywhere, send it far into the distant past, because Control is just going to. Control can just lay dormant for 500 years, 1,000 years, wait out time, find Discovery in the future, and putting the ship in the future is not hiding the information at all. It's the stupidest place to put it, because Controller can just literally wait it out and get there eventually. In the past, it'd be a lot more difficult to pinpoint and or get the time travel ability for Control to go back in time and find it.
You know, Control's an AI already. I mean, it is. No question, it's already an AI. You know, yes, you might destroy all of its 31 ships, but it's obviously... I mean, I'm sure it's sent backup versions of itself into hundreds of systems across the quadrant. I mean, you can't erase it without a really cool plot thing. I mean, if you sent it into the past, then on it, because it would know everything Discovery knows. So on Enterprise, you would say, right, 2 million years ago, this star goes supernova. Okay, let's send Discovery back to that star system. And then we know that in a few years it'll supernova. Discovery never knows. Boom, it's gone. Because that, you could also destroy it in the past. You can't destroy it in the future. So there are, smarter plans. I mean, it was a fine plan, but they were banking on it last time and with the same problems last time. I think it's more just a conceit to get... Well, we have to have Discovery travel in time so it can travel in time. Doesn't matter what the plan was. We just need to travel in time.
To be fair, Discovery said it was told to wait till the crew came back, and it was sitting there for 1,000 years waiting. So we don't know exactly when that happens, but I'm kind of calling it now. I mean, they've kind of said there's not enough to charge in the crystal for her to come back. So if she goes, she's stranded there, and then everybody's like, "Oh, okay, we'll go with you." Okay, fine, whatever. But I have a feeling that if they do get stuck in the future, and if season 3 is indeed 500 years in the future, they need to find a way back. They are going to find that way back, but it's going to be, we can't bring Discovery with us. We're another smaller ship or something. We have enough power to get the crew back, and they put in the instructions to Discovery. Okay, just wait. We'll come back. We need to get you back somehow, whatever. And then Discovery ends up waiting 1,000 years. Sentience is, brewing. It becomes smarter. I don't know. There's going to be something like that transpires.
So you think season 3 is going to be the story of these 8 people on this ship in the future, and that's why it's out of the canon timeline?
It's going to be Andromeda. It's going to be rebuilding the Federation. Oh, we can't. We're just going to go back instead. I don't know. It's rebuilding the Commonwealth.
Yeah, good reference. Basically, guys and Stuart, we're saying hurry up next week, because there are so many questions, so many things, and as Kurtzman said, there'll be a big shake-up, and this is again a quote, all the canon problems will be addressed at the end of season 2. It's a lot of pressure, guys, a lot of canon stuff to deal with. So hey, fun episode. I will give it a... It's difficult because, again, you don't know until the next part, because this was a build-up episode like other ones were, but the first bit's excellent, the second bit's fine. So they averages out. I'm gonna be fair to the format. I'm gonna say 7.5. But if the next part's awesome, that'll get it to an 8 something. Because it could be a really lackluster payoff, and then this episode's like, well, it was good for 20 minutes, and it was, you know what I mean. So 7.5 is pretty good. It's on the upper tier. It's better than season 1, and the Enterprise stuff I thought was as respectfully done as they could do, because we know the Discovery team, and they have their own ideas. And for what they do, respectfully done, Enterprise.
Having heard everything we talked about now and agreeing with you 100% that the first half is way better than the second half, there's a lot of talking and goodbying in the second half. I'm going to lower my score somewhat. Going to go to 8.5 for me instead of 9. Because you are right. It in hindsight, when we put it together with the next episode, it could be really great on its own. or bump it up a little bit, depending on how things go. But, the second half did drag a little bit. And got a little bit unnecessary with the goodbyes. And so, speaking of goodbyes, though, Pike's goodbye to the bridge crew, amazing. And their goodbye to him, beautiful. Loved it. So that was a really good one.
It's just funny how he had like one thing to say with each person, and it's like, well, I have one episode with you guys, so that's that. Both you guys, you're really good at a situation.
You guys are calm under pressure. Thank you. Means we've done nothing.
So what are our names, Captain? Bernard, I'm sorry. That's just it's funny. And then Burnham's was like really full on, and it was that classic, she's the hero of the universe story, but it felt really wrongly balanced with, with who to what. But it was nice. And then legitimately though, when Pike sits down in his captain's chair in the Enterprise at the end, is his proper uniform in the chair. Good, felt nice, very shiny, very shiny, very bright, but nice.
And on that note, guys, what did you think of this episode? Give it your ranking, give us your comments down below, and by all means, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget the notification icon to be notified next week when we do our review of that episode. And by all means, don't forget our lives. We are doing one this evening, as Commander pointed out, at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 UK. And we're going to do the full breakdown and analysis and review of this episode. It's going to be about 2 hours. But come join us, have your voice heard, put in your 2 cents, give us your comments, your questions, anything you're concerned about with the episode. We'll address them, and look forward to seeing you guys there.
Yeah, be a really fun time. And support the show on Patreon if you want to see us do. Now, obviously, Discovery is coming to an end for season 2, but we want to do other reviews with other shows and do the same sort of cool analysis and give the good, the bad, the honest, and the how's it linked to canon. So if you want to see more of that sort of show, then Patreon's a great way. We want to try and hit the $1,000 goal as a backbone of our show and this channel. It means we can do things like that and keep doing them. So support us if you want to see more cool reviews or one-time donation at Trekyards.com. Or just, like I said, join the Super Chat Lives. They're really awesome. Or just subscribe the free ways. So many good things. And check the link down below for even more ways, which involve buying things, but always at a good rate and normally saving you money.
That's right. So until next time, or later this evening, whenever you see us next, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Kungs. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.